There are battles in life that leave visible scars, broken bones, tired eyes, worn-out hands. And then there are battles that leave no trace at all, the kind that quietly unfold beneath smiles, behind achievements, and within the silent corners of the mind. This was one of those battles. From the outside, everything seemed perfectly in place. The life being lived looked like something many would aspire to. There was stability, structure, and a steady rhythm that suggested success. Days were filled with responsibilities handled on time, goals achieved one after another, and a reputation built on reliability. To anyone watching, it looked like strength, discipline, and control. But beneath that surface, something far heavier was taking shape. It started subtly, almost unnoticeably. A lingering exhaustion that sleep could not fix. A quiet sense of disconnection, like standing in a crowded room yet feeling completely alone. The things that once brought joy slowly began to feel distant, like memories belonging to someone else. Laughter became something performed rather than felt, and silence grew louder than any noise. The mind became a place that was harder and harder to escape. Each morning began with a weight that had no clear source. It wasn't tied to a specific problem or event, which made it even more confusing. There was no obvious reason to feel this way, and that absence of reason only deepened the struggle. Gratitude existed, but it felt disconnected, like understanding something logically without being able to feel it emotionally. The expectations from the outside world didn't change. If anything, they grew. More success led to more responsibility, more visibility, more pressure to maintain the image that had been carefully built. And so the effort doubled, not just to perform, but to hide. Because this was a battle no one seemed to notice. There was a belief that struggling meant failing. That feeling low meant weakness. That asking for help would somehow undo everything that had been achieved. So instead of reaching out, the choice was made to push through. To keep going. To keep proving that everything was under control. But something shifted, not all at once, and not dramatically, but quietly. It came in the form of awareness. A realization began to take shape, that ignoring the struggle wasn't making it disappear. That pushing through without understanding was only deepening the exhaustion. That strength wasn't about pretending everything was fine, but about acknowledging when it wasn't. This awareness didn't solve everything, but it opened a door. For the first time, there was a pause. A moment to observe instead of react. A moment to sit with the discomfort rather than run from it. And in that pause, something important became clear: the mind wasn't the enemy. It was trying to be heard. The thoughts, the emotions, the heaviness, they weren't random. They were signals. Signals of burnout, of unprocessed feelings, of a life being lived too far away from inner needs. Understanding this didn't remove the pain, but it changed the relationship with it. Instead of fighting every thought, there was an attempt to understand them. Instead of judging every emotion, there was space created to feel them. Small steps began to replace overwhelming expectations. It started with simple things. Taking a few moments of stillness without distraction. Allowing rest without guilt. Noticing the breath, the body, the present moment. These weren't instant solutions, but they became anchors, small reminders that it was possible to reconnect. There was also a gradual shift in perspective. The idea that everything had to be handled alone began to soften. The belief that asking for help was weakness started to fade. It became clear that no one is meant to carry everything by themselves, no matter how strong they appear. The invisible battle, once hidden, started to become acknowledged, first internally, and then slowly, externally. And something unexpected happened. The world didn't fall apart. The image didn't shatter. Instead, there was a sense of relief. A release from the constant pressure of pretending. A realization that authenticity creates connection, not distance. Healing didn't come all at once. It didn't follow a straight path. There were still difficult days, still moments of doubt, still waves of heaviness. But there was also progress, subtle, steady, and real. Moments of clarity began to appear. Moments where the mind felt quieter, where the weight felt lighter, where life felt a little more present. These moments didn't last forever, But they proved something important, that change was possible. The invisible battle was still there, but it was no longer being fought alone, and it was no longer being ignored. And that made all the difference. Because sometimes, the most powerful turning point in any struggle is not the moment everything gets better, but the moment everything becomes honest. The moment the mask begins to fade. The moment the truth is allowed to exist. That is where healing begins, not in perfection, not in constant happiness, but in awareness, acceptance, and the courage to face what was once hidden. There are countless battles happening quietly, every single day, within people who appear strong, successful, and unshaken. And many of those battles go unnoticed, not because they aren't real, but because they are invisible. But invisible does not mean unimportant. And unseen does not mean unworthy of care. Sometimes, the strongest people are the ones fighting the hardest battles inside. And sometimes, the greatest strength is not in continuing to hide, but in finally allowing oneself to be seen. Because even the quietest battles deserve to be understood. And even the most invisible struggles deserve light.